Welcome to Unlocking Your Truth, another podcast by Dr. Leslie Phillips.
Welcome, listeners. You are tuning in to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Leslie and with Corey.
Hello, everybody.
We are broadcasting from 101.7 FM across the Fraser Valley from the unceded territory of the Stolo Nation on CIVL. You can also catch us on the live stream on the Awaken Your Psychic Abilities Facebook group and on my YouTube channel, which is Dr. Leslie Phillips.
Yes, it is.
Yay! Every week on Unlocking Your Truth, which is a talk show, we cover a different topic under the general umbrella of metaphysics and spirituality.
What happens if it's not raining?
You can still we'll be under a parasol.
Sorry. Go ahead, Dr. Leslie.
This week's episode, we're going to talk about what blocks your psychic development. And so we invite you to sit back with a nice cup of tea, relax and listen in. Join in the chat if you wish and ask your questions. So if you're listening in the live Facebook group or on my YouTube channel, we really look forward to your comments and your questions. And this evening, we're especially interested in any blocks that you feel like you're having to your psychic development.
Yes, and psychic development in general as well.
That's right. Yes. So let's talk about this. In a way, this is one of the realms that I specialize in.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm going to talk about some of the blocks that I find are really, really common for a lot of people. And then we can maybe go on to some more specific blocks. The first thing is, let's call it discipline. Having a regular discipline to focus on and devote yourself to your psychic development. Psychic development is, in a way, it's just like going to the gym. You need to exercise it, you need to practice it, you need to build your psychic muscle. So if this is something that you're really serious about, then it is important that you dedicate yourself to this, because while we all get fleeting glimpses and brief insights, to really, really, really understand what you're doing and to really, really, really be able to get focused information, then you need to practice. So, and the best way to develop your psychic abilities is through meditation and to have a regular meditation practice. And there are some very specific meditation techniques that were taught in the ancient mystery schools and which I and other teachers teach in this day and age, which will help you with this. So number one, what might block your psychic development is if you're not really dedicating yourself to it, if you're not really putting time and focus and energy aside for that. And another one is that mind chatter. So many of us have this constant mind chatter, don't we?
Yeah, I do.
I was talking to one of my students about that today, actually. And, even those of us who've been doing it for a while, occasionally the mind takes over again. So that can block your intuition. Why? Because your mind is not your intuition. Your mind chatter is not your intuition. Your mind chatter is coming from your brain, really. it's sort of like a mechanical device that does the thinking. And that's not who you are as spirit. That's not your higher being. Sometimes those thoughts can actually be coming from other people, can be a form of interference from other people, actually. So on the one hand, you've got your own monkey mind with its random thoughts and its to-do list, and thinking about yesterday, the thing that you said to your boss, and thinking about this thing that you've got to do next week. That's not your intuition, that's your mind. Sometimes we can also have intrusive thoughts that aren't really our own, and we may be picking them up telepathically from other people, but that's still not going to help you with your psychic development, because it's random and not relevant to you. So being able to get a handle on your mind, being able to get that monkey mind under control, and being able to own your mind space so that other people aren't in there interfering with it. So that would be another thing that could block your psychic development. A third one is sort of being in an emotional drama all the time. So if you're constantly having emotional ups and downs, or even under emotional attack from somebody else, and that's a part of your life, that can really distract from your psychic development. Why? Because the emotions, they are not your intuition. Sometimes people get confused. If I have an emotion, is that my intuition? And the answer is no, it's not your intuition. It is your body giving you feedback about its life situation. And you can listen to that through your intuition, but it's not your intuition. Also, we can be invaded by other people's emotions. So you could have somebody else throwing their emotional energy at you that leaves you feeling overwhelmed, or you could even be channeling someone else's emotions. So again, that is going to interfere with your psychic development, and you need to get a handle on that in order to advance, really, because the emotions will drag you down into the body levels. They come from the body. So number 3 is getting some seniority over the emotions. And it doesn't mean ignore the emotions. They are important to listen to, but if you let them dominate, then they will keep you from your psychic abilities. Another one, which is a common thing that can get in the way of your psychic development, is effort. If you're getting into effort, then you're approaching your psychic development from your body perspective. So there are differences between the physical body that you're in and the spiritual being that you are. One of the differences is everything your body does takes effort. Nothing you do as spirit takes any effort at all. Everything the body does takes effort because it exists in time and space. It's this dense material form. It uses energy to walk and talk and move and do stuff. Spirit, you're not in time and space. You're not in physical form. And how you operate as spirit is effortlessness. Your psychic abilities are part of who you are as spirit. They are how you communicate as spirit, and they are effortless. So if you find yourself struggling and straining and trying really, really hard to get your psychic guidance, you're not approaching it as spirit, you're approaching it from the body. And it's a common thing for people to do because we are just so used to being in our bodies and doing things with our bodies. It's a bit of a transition to get used to doing it in a different way than that. Another one is expectations. So having expectations about what it is like or what it should be like to have psychic abilities. And competition is a part of that, because you might compare yourself to other people. Well, look at the way that that person does it. That's how it should be, and that's how I should do it. Or just having this perfect ideal. None of that will help you with your psychic development. It will all block your psychic development. Because anytime you compare yourself to another person or compare yourself to an ideal expectation, then you're never going to meet that. And all that does is it stops you from accepting yourself as you are. Every single one of us is unique. So comparing yourself to another person doesn't make sense, because the way that they gain intuitive information could be quite different than the way that you do it. And so if you try to be like them, you will never allow yourself to be how you are, and you will never experience your gifts. Same thing, if you have this perfect picture, this expectation of how it's meant to be, then you'll never allow it to be just how it is for you. So sometimes in my classes, I get a mixture of students, some who just really take to their clairvoyance immediately, and they can see everything I invite them to look at. And then there are others that say, well, I just cannot see a thing, but I know that it's there. I mean, I know what you're telling me to do, and I feel like I'm doing it, but I am not seeing a thing. Well, both of those students are using their psychic abilities, but they're doing it in a different way. One group is seeing and the other group is knowing. And if we tried to make everybody do it the same, then we'd leave one group of them feeling very invalidated, like they weren't any good, when actually that's actually not true at all. So letting go of expectations. Another one is fear. And there's many things that people can get afraid of. You can be afraid of what other people will think of you. You can be afraid that they will say that you are crazy because you're hearing things and you're seeing things that aren't really there. You can get afraid that you might see some things about yourself or other people that you'd rather not get to know about. You might be afraid that all your baggage will come out and you'll have to face it. You might be afraid of having a premonition about somebody or something, and does that make you responsible for it? You might be afraid of ghosts, monsters, scary things that you might see, and on and on and on and on. There are many, many different fears of opening your psychic. You might be afraid you'd be punished for it, because perhaps you've been punished for it in a past lifetime, and so on. So we have to get over our fears, because they can block our psychic development. The other one is doubt. Doubt and uncertainty. Am I doing it right? Did I really see that? No, surely that was my imagination. That also can block your psychic development. And usually that's coming from the intellect. Usually that's your intellect interfering with your intuition. Your intuition is instantaneous, whereas your intellect takes time to analyze things. And so if you are weighing up the pros and cons and analyzing and trying to think, was that really right? Then you've already gone out of your intuition and you've gone into your intellect. So it's about learning to accept the first thing. The first thing that comes to you, that's your intuition, that's the instant answer. And then what you do with it after that could be your intellect if you start doubting it. What else can block your psychic development? We've alluded to some of these already. You could have something karmic from past lifetimes that is holding you back. It could be that you've been punished for being psychic. It could be that you've been held back. Let's say you were a student in a mystery school and your teacher was in competition with you or something, and they put you in your place. Could be all sorts of things from past lives that might interfere. You know, people not believing you, making you into an outcast, feeling alone and different, not having any friends because nobody else was like you or is like you. That can put you off as well. Another thing that can interfere with your psychic development would be beings. Some kind of entity that is bent on stopping you and preventing you. And so you need to get seniority with beings like that in order to develop your psychic abilities. Where do these beings come from? Sometimes they can come from a past life. They could be a being that you actually worked with at a certain stage in your psychic development in past lives, and now you've outgrown them and you're ready to move on, but the being isn't. And so you need to extract and remove and let it go. Otherwise, it will block and interfere with your psychic development because it's invested in keeping you stuck where you are. That's the last week I've had a few of those in some of my students coming up, actually. And let's see, other people can interfere as well. Maybe your family believes it's the work of the devil and wants to stop you, or doesn't want you to see them.
The devil made me do it.
Yes. So listeners, you're tuning in to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Leslie and Corey. We're talking about what blocks your psychic development. And we've done a huge big list of them already.
You spoke really fast.
I did. I just downloaded it all. We're going to take a break now. And after the break, we'll be back to talk some more about this. Welcome back, listeners. You are tuning in to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Leslie and Corey.
Hello again.
Thank you, everyone who's tuning into the live stream on the Awaken Your Psychic Abilities Facebook group and on YouTube, and to all those of you who are listening to the podcast or who are actually listening to the radio station. Now, if you join the Facebook group or follow me on YouTube, you will get this material weeks in advance of the podcast and the radio show. We love it when you do that, because then we get some interaction with our audience. We get some extra discussion points and questions to answer.
Lots of good stuff.
Yeah, so everyone, if you have questions about what blocks psychic development, if you're experiencing some blocks yourself in your psychic development, please tell us about them or ask us about them. So I gave some general things that can affect everyone in their psychic development in the first part of the show. And by the way, I should probably mention that all of this is talked about in my book, Intuition and Chakras. In fact, there is a whole chapter on what blocks psychic development. And then there's another chapter on intuition myths. And funnily enough, I would say that believing the wrong thing, having been given and accepted some incorrect information, could also block your psychic development or interfere with your psychic development, or cause you to do it in an unsafe manner or an unhealthy manner. So, for example, one way that a lot of psychics operate is to allow other energies into their energy field. So they might read somebody by merging energy with that person. They might get information about a dead person by merging energy. In which case, what's happening is that they're suffering in the same way that that person that they're reading is. They're feeling their pain. whether it's physical pain or emotional pain. And that takes a toll on your system. And if you don't clean yourself out afterwards, you can end up carrying someone else's baggage for a long time. And yet there are many psychics who practice that way and they don't think there's anything wrong with it because they don't know that that's what they're doing. So there's a whole chapter in my book that talks about these kinds of mistakes that people do in their psychic practice in terms of, you know, believing certain things. Here's another one. Let's say you believe that your chakras are always a set color. Or you had your aura photograph taken 10 years ago and you believe that that's the color of your aura. Well, that's going to keep you stuck because your aura is changing all the time. Your chakras are changing all the time. And they are running different vibrational frequencies depending on the growth that you are going through. So having good, solid information about your psychic abilities and how they work is a really good idea. And that's what the book Intuition and Chakras does. So now the theme this evening is what blocks your psychic development. And in part one of the book, amongst other things, we talk about these general blocks that can affect pretty much all of us. The second part of the book, we're talking about specific psychic abilities, and we go through 22 different psychic abilities and we go through their relationship with the chakras because the psychic abilities are channeled through the chakra system. And there can be specific challenges that come up associated with specific psychic abilities and specific chakras. So that's above and beyond the ones that I talked about in the first part of the show. So let's say, for example, we're talking about your clairvoyance, which is an aspect of your sixth chakra. So if you have energy blocks in your sixth chakra that relate to your clairvoyance, then you might find you're mentally unfocused. You have fuzzy thinking, you can't see very clearly, you struggle to get a vision of your future, you know, and you have to go through and meet those challenges and come out the other side to own your clairvoyance and to be able to use it in a way where now you're seeing clearly. Or let's say, oh, here's the classic one. Let's talk about clairsentience, which is an aspect of the second chakra, the classic empath. The challenges here are emotional overwhelm, being inundated with other people's energies and emotions. You know, just feeling overwhelmed and distraught and needing to isolate yourself from people all the time, being the one that everyone wants to dump their emotional baggage on. So, you know, you need to get some seniority to set some boundaries energetically and, you know, even verbally and in a physical sense with people in order to get your space back, in order to get clarity with that psychic ability.
Marie says, I enjoyed the class I did with you a number of years ago, yet she says, I feel alone in my interest in exploring my intuitive side. Interesting.
Well, you know, that's one of the reasons why it's really good to join a community like the Facebook group that we have going. But also, I feel that that's what I offer through all of my classes. And Marie, it sounds like, oh, maybe you took Unlock Your Intuition. I think there was one or two Maries that have taken Unlock Your Intuition. Because, you know, you might want to take a look at my website, Marie, because there's lots of other psychic development courses now that didn't exist then, perhaps. And every one of those is an opportunity to be together and hang out with a group of people just like you. Even if you don't want to take a course, you know, get involved in the Facebook group. Start meeting people in the Facebook group. And one of the things that I've noticed over the years really is that it is a trait of people who are awakening and opening their psychic abilities to feel alone, to feel different, to feel like the black sheep of the family, to feel like they don't have any real friends because nobody gets them and nobody's on the same level as they are. But what's funny from my perspective is I sit here all day, every day, meeting people who think that about themselves. And yet here they all are. There's actually lots of them. And it's just a case of getting connected with each other and building communities so that you can support each other and not feel so alone. And that's what I try to do in my courses, is have it be a community where everyone can support each other. In fact, one of the things I've started doing with my more advanced students as they progress through the courses is to do these mystery to mastery groups. And that's kind of like a pod or a clique of people who've gone through the courses together and just want to continue meeting, and continue developing their abilities and skills together and practicing on each other and being able to ask me questions. And so I guess what I'm saying is I do what I can to try and help bring you all together. And though you feel alone, you're not alone. And actually, all the people that you feel different from, it's just because they haven't quite woken up to the degree that you have yet. They're in a different place in their path and their awakening. It's I always like, if you ever listen to Abraham Hicks, she talks about being the leading edge of the wave of reality. And I feel like those of you awakening and developing your psychic abilities, you're at the leading edge. There's always got to be somebody who goes first, who stretches the bounds of who humanity has been. And that feels a little bit lonely because you're the first ones, like the pioneers of a species that is awakening. And it's a very brave and courageous place to be. And it's what we came here to do. And so I would just encourage you, Marie, to, keep at it. And thank you for being here this evening and sharing with us.
And you find even on the Facebook group as well, if you go on and have a chat on there, that other people are feeling the same thing. Shannon was just saying that she feels similar to you as well. And we really appreciate it if you have those discussions on the Facebook group so that everybody else can glean information and learn from them, because it's important that we all get together. Otherwise, what happens is you just keep feeling the same way you do.
Yeah, and I'll just mention, because there's been a little tendency for people to, instead of talking on the Facebook group, say private message me and take their discussions away from the group, which I would just really appreciate if people could stay on the group and have their discussions live in the group, because then it does really help build the community and help other people feel affinity and they can identify with you and learn from you.
Exactly. Okay, so are you ready for some questions, Dr. Leslie?
I'd love that.
You sure?
Yes.
Don't want to keep on jabbering, or no?
No, I've jabbered very, very fast and spewed out a lot of things, so I think we could have
Well, you've done a wonderful jabbering job. That's what radio is all about. Jabber, 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 jabber. Well, this is a message that came in by email earlier on today, and it says something. I'm sorry. It says, "Hi, Dr. Leslie. Sometimes when I meditate, I try to connect energetically with loved ones who have passed over. I've been trying to connect with my mother-in-law who has Alzheimer's, but I can't make a connection. Can you offer advice on how I can overcome this blockage, or is she perhaps unreachable in this state? Thank you so much." That's a really good question.
Well, I'm assuming has her mother-in-law passed over?
No. It says I've been trying to connect with my mother-in-law who has Alzheimer's.
It's not like she had it and passed over. Okay, so what's this lady's name?
Oh, I didn't get the name. I can look on my emails.
So I'll try and.
Just give me 1 second. Jennifer.
Oh, okay, so if your mother-in-law is still alive, so she's been trying to reach her as spirit.
No, I think she's trying to connect with her. Sometimes I meditate, I try to connect energetically with loved ones who have passed over. And then she says, I've been trying to connect with my mother-in-law who has Alzheimer's, but I can't make a connection. Can you? So I think she's trying to connect.
I mean, okay,
So,
if she is still alive,
yes,
and
that's what I'm gathering from this.
and you're trying to connect with her as spirit, connect with her higher being, and have a conversation with her higher being, which may be what you're doing when you talk to the people who've passed over, because you want to get to that part of her that's not disturbed. And so if she's still alive, then in a way with Alzheimer's, what they've done is they've kind of already left spiritually. It's just their body, really. And so speak to her higher being. So, you might perceive that as a spark of light, a spiritual spark, and communicate with her on that level is what I would suggest.
So you don't see a blockage there? Or?
Well, the other thing I wanted to say about that is if she's not still alive, then you'd still connect with that spiritual spark, that higher being. And she wouldn't be necessarily suffering from Alzheimer's at that point because she's left the body that had the disease. No, I think you just need a bit of direction in what you're doing and how to do it, really.
Thank you, Dr. Leslie. Brian says, I think that happened to me. I believe I encountered a ghost when I was a kid, according to what he's talking about earlier on, because this is an earlier question about one of the things that stops you from going into your psychic abilities. I think that happened to me. I believe I encountered a ghost when I was a kid, according to what my brother told me, and coincides with some missing memories and dreams afterwards. And I closed down that part of my seeing. I remember my mom telling me I was afraid of things, shadows, and shapes in the dark. I wonder if you can tell me anything more about this, what you see. My intuition is getting stronger, as is my other abilities.
That's interesting. It kind of sounds like an alien abduction as well, doesn't it? Sometimes people who've been through that alien abduction experience have missing memories. Okay, Brian, well, let's take a look. I wonder how old you were when this happened. And okay, when I look at this, I'm seeing some energy in your third chakra that relates to it. And the third chakra is where the out of body memory is. Oh, so you were 8 years old. And do you know for sure that it happened in your waking consciousness?
I'm sorry. That was Alexa saying, talking for a second there.
Oops. Yeah, Brian, did that happen during your waking consciousness? Do you know for sure? I'd like a bit more information, really. Or did you just tell your brother and your mother afterwards about the experience that you'd had? I'm seeing some energy in your third chakra, which is why I'm asking that. I'm wondering whether it was an astral body experience. And we don't always retain all the, memory from that. I'm not getting a lot of information about it. I feel like I need a little bit. He says, not sure. I have dreams about this ghost for years. I think that you were tuning in to, when I look at it, what I see is sort of like this static and you in a trance-like state. So I feel like maybe you sort of zoned out into a trance-like state and you experienced this being that was an astral being, and that's what happened, rather than you being like fully physically awake when you saw it. All right, I have to go for another break now. So listeners, you're tuning in to Unlock Your Intuition, unlocking your truth with Dr. Leslie and Corey, and we'll be back after these messages. Welcome back, listeners, to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Leslie and Corey.
Hello again. You
Talking
could probably continue with that question. He's got some more comments on here for you. He says that he was 8 years old, and he said, my brother told me about my encounter. I don't remember it.
Yeah. So, I mean, what I'm seeing is, like I said, I don't think your brother witnessed you. Well, he may have done, but what I'm seeing is you went into a trance and you experienced it. You experienced something that we might say is the other side of the veil, something that was a spiritual or astral being that scared you. But I'm seeing you be in an altered state of consciousness when it happened.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Leslie. And Shannon, hi, Dr. Leslie. I missed the first part. She says, can you read my energy to see if I'm blocked? I've been doing your week 1 of grounding daily meditation practice from the Unlocking Your Intuition course.
Okay, Shannon, let's take a look. What I wanted to say is not really blocked, changing, shifting. You know, sometimes what I see in students when they're taking that course is it's almost like they stack up all these things that they're going to go through. So it feels like your energy system's getting ready. It's getting primed to bring a bunch of stuff up so that you can clear it. I see something in the second chakra that feels like a kind of, what would we say? Limit in terms of, I want to say emotional expression or emotional processing. It's sort of like, you know, there's a degree to which emotions are allowed to flow and a degree to which they're not allowed to flow. And so I'm seeing that is a limit or a kind of block. That is one of the things that you're bringing up to get ready. Module 3 in that course is when we work on the second chakra and the emotions. So it just looks like there's a kind of a protection mechanism in there as well. It looks like, it's funny, it reminds me of sort of an elastic stretched across the chakra. When something comes in that you don't want to receive, it throws it back out at whoever it came from. So that's one thing that I'm seeing. So it looks like that one of the things is that there's just some things that you don't want to feel, don't want to hear, that you have blocked. And so your development is going to involve letting go of that and allowing yourself to feel and hear and see and know and acknowledge everything. Okay. Thank
Oh,
you very much, Shannon.
Thank you. This is from Ali. Ali says, which chakra is most likely causing a block in my claircognizance ability? Do you see what could be causing blocks for me specifically?
Well, so that ability is channeled through the crown chakra, the 7th chakra. And looks like a couple of things. Invalidation comes up. So when you've known something and someone else has rejected it or said that's a load of old bunk, you know, so feeling invalidated for what you know. That looks like one of the blocks. Another one of the blocks looks like it's having to make it make sense intellectually, that it's not okay to just know it, but you have to make it make sense intellectually because that's what other people expect. There's some energy, not exactly in the 7th chakra, but around the 7th chakra. It looks like pastime energy. It feels like in order to stay safe, you had to present yourself in a way that made other people feel like you fit in with them. And what you're knowing isn't always matching what they're wanting you to know. So that's what I'm seeing, just some mainly invalidation from others for you to overcome. So thank you, Ali, for your question.
Okay, next question for Dr. Leslie from Melina. Melina says, I can feel lonely when you are in the midst, that you can feel lonely when you are in the midst of going through transition from your old self and their friends and family compared to who you're becoming. I'm in that as well. My abilities have been starting to really come through, but I know I have some more blocks to overcome. Are you able to give me any guidance?
Okay, Melina, let's take a look. And actually, I'll just comment on that because
That's great.
this path of spiritual awakening, before I look at the specific question, this path of spiritual awakening is very much about letting go of the old version of you that wasn't really the true you. And sometimes we can do that so deeply and so profoundly that we don't even know who we are anymore because all the old labels and the old programs have dropped away. So it can feel discombobulating. Okay, so you're asking if I'm seeing any blocks, Milena. Well, the first thing that comes up is an outlet, wanting an outlet for all of this awakening and light and energy that's moving through you. And so it feels like pressure building up like inside a Coke bottle because I'm bursting, but I don't have sufficient outlet for this. And the two places where that's coming up is the 1st chakra and the 7th chakra. So I assume if you follow me that you've already downloaded the grounding meditation on my website, but if you haven't, then I recommend it.
I'll put the link on right now.
You know, grounding would really, really help you. It looks like, and that has to do with as well, how to ground all of this change in. How to, what's that going to look like in your life? I've changed so much, so what's my new life going to look like? And how am I going to integrate all of this change into my self-expression in a manifest way? So it looks like there's a block in your 1st chakra that's just holding you back from really grounding that in. And in the crown chakra, it just looks like, it looks like doubt, and it looks like your body doesn't always feel in the loop with the changes that you're making as spirit. So being able to communicate with your body and explain what's going on spiritually, because your body looks like it doesn't always understand and sometimes it's doubting or questioning. Thank you. Thank you, Milena, for your question.
This is from Annie L. Annie L says, "Hi, thank you for the broadcast as always. I'm making progress, but still feel a sincere blockage. Can you help me to isolate where to focus or what to do? Thank you."
Okay. Well, there's a lot coming up, Anil, around your heart chakra, actually. And also sort of your shoulder area. And there's just this picture of you carrying a heavy burden. You know, when they used to have a pole across their back and a bag from on each side of the pole, it's like this picture of you climbing uphill with these two heavy bags. So I would say letting go of feelings of obligation, feelings of responsibility, expectations of yourself and what you're supposed to be like and what you're supposed to achieve, so that you can just allow yourself to be exactly where you are. So that would be one thing. And I'm seeing this profound sadness and desire to be loved, feel love, experience love, express love, be accepted. And so I would say, where do you not accept yourself? And let go of any way in which you do not accept yourself, or any way in which you judge yourself or feel that you are not living up to the one that you thought you ought to be or think you ought to be. So the key is actually acceptance of who you are and where you are, and letting go of obligations and responsibility and expectations. I hope that helps you.
Hey, this is from Joanna, and she says, "If it's not too much to ask, I was wondering if you could check on my energy. I had a weird spooky experience this weekend that felt almost like some sort of psychic attack. Maybe I just freaked myself out, but there were some weird going-ons in my apartment, followed by a series of nightmares that were terrifying."
Okay.
Dr. Lesley's favorite.
Actually not my favorite, but all right, let's take a look. I've had a lot of that going on this week, actually, with some of my students. And this is from Joanna.
Yeah. Not to be mistaken with Johanna.
Well, I do see a kind of psychic attack. I do see some energy cords going for you in the crown chakra. And so literally your space was invaded, you know, your space where you live and your own personal energy field and space. What was it that was bothering you and interfering with you? Well, it looks like it was on the level of, you know, astral plane, non-physical reality, and something that you were dealing with in your dreams as well. And it feels like you're just working some things out to unravel yourself from some entanglements with people and beings. So it looks like almost like an old group contract that you're trying to extricate yourself from because you have evolved beyond it. But some of those energies not wanting you to do that. And so causing some discombobulation. Hopefully that makes sense to you, Joanna. Thank you for your question.
I don't want to spend the time on the comments. We're getting lots of great comments about your readings tonight, Dr. Lesley. It's wonderful. This is from the jury, and jury says, is there a correlation between psychic abilities and the moon cycle? With today being a new moon, are psychic energies heightened and or on a full moon?
That's an interesting question. And I think that there are lots of people who believe the answer to that is yes. I don't know whether I do, because I don't know that I find that it affects me at all. But I'll take a look at the question for you.
Full moon affects me.
It affects Corey. But I don't know, doesn't affect your psychic abilities, it affects your mood.
I never really took notice.
Let's take a look. I guess metaphorically, the energy of the moon and the light of the moon is about reflection. It's actually the sunlight reflecting on the surface of the moon, then reflecting back at us. So this theme or idea of reflection and being helpful in self-reflection and turning inward, that it is conducive to that, the full moon, and bringing light to darkness as well. And so, I can see how that has a relationship to that. Also, the moon and the cycles of the moon and the position of the moon, it affects water. Most of our body is made of water, isn't it? And I think sometimes it's sort of pulling things out of us and pulling things up. I mean, if you just look at the female moon cycle, often people will be more emotional before or during menstruation, because, literally more things are coming up, and that is conducive to bringing things up and releasing them. And so sometimes that can interfere with your intuition, depending on how you approach that when it's happening. If you're fighting against it and getting overwhelmed and overcome, then it would interfere with it. If you are flowing with it and seeing it as a healing opportunity, then it might enhance it. So, I think, yes, it can. But I think that if you really develop your psychic abilities and get really clear, then you can be clear at any time of the month, really, or any phase of the moon cycle. Thank you for your question.
Okay, we have one more question. From time for one more question. Actually, very quick answer, Dr. Leslie. We have one more minute. Hi, Dr. Leslie. Someone hit my car today. It was a hit and run. Did I do something to cause this? Am I blocked or ungrounded? I was rear-ended last year as well. Appreciate any insights.
Okay, I wonder if your car was parked or you were in the car when it happened. Okay. And who's that from?
That was from Johanna Joyful.
It does look like a bit of a wake-up call, and it does look like there's an issue of groundedness, and it looks like that there's a tendency of you to be projecting your energy into the future. And if one wanted to take it as a spiritual message, it was just like, wake up, be here now, get present. So that would be a quick, fast answer.
Thank you, Dr. Leslie.
You're very
welcome. Amazing. That was a wonderful show.
Thank you. Well, thank you everybody for joining us tonight on Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Leslie. I keep wanting to call it Unlock Your Intuition, which is my psychic development course. So yes, thank you for being on Unlocking Your Truth. It's been a fun show, and we look forward to connecting with you same time, same place next week.
Yes. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you for joining us. You've been listening to another Unlocking Your Truth podcast by Dr. Leslie Phillips. For more information, go to our website at drlesley phillips.com. That's drlesleyphillipscomp29545, where you can ask questions or send her an email, and there's many free gifts on there for you as well. You can also find the questions that were asked during this show at the website on our free card reading podcast page, where you'll find a full list of them. Come back again.